Yeah, sorry guys.
Basically, the point is, liberals are students too, and they have
Absolutely.
and they have particular views about how student unions should be run, how the MSA in particular should be run.
Are they diametrically opposed to you?
To my personal view,
Yep.
yes, some of them are.
Why do you want to get them elected then to impose their views on the students?
They won't be
if you
imposing
think that
because
your
it's
views are better.
They won't be imposing.
Don't you want the best for the student?
Yes, I certainly do.
Okay.
They won't be imposing their views, but they'll be putting them forth in a forum, the MSC, that can accommodate some of those views. Right? These people aren't the devil. Like,
I'm not saying they're the devil. The proportional representation system ensures that provided they represent 16% of the vote, or roughly that, then they will have a forum to put their views in the MSC. I think that's a good thing.
And
why not them into office-bearing spots?
We're not exclusionary in that sense, whereas we believe Go is. And it doesn't accurately reflect that students are turned off by, students may be turned off by politics for the sake of politics.
Okay. Guys, I will try once more to take the phone call.
I hear that.
Hello? Simon, okay. 1 minute. I'll try and put you. Do you want to be on air? Sorry? Yeah, I mean it's an open discussion. Okay, like it's an open discussion.
Put you on loudspeaker, so
and I think
I can't hear anything.
Yeah, they can discuss themselves. If next time like if you call, I think with this show generally like it's you're going to be on air. So if you want to make it on air, just get like comment, that's fine. But yeah, so that's fine. But I understand what you're concerned. But like it's like a discussion. That's fine. All right, thank you. Okay, bye. All right, I have to.
I can't talk back anymore.
Yeah, okay, like this
People have been silenced as they should.
Yes, sorry, like with the, because I'm pretty new to radio as well. This is my third show, full show. I'm not quite sure how to put people on air, and the person didn't want to be on air anyway. But what the question, like what was put forward was that Julian was asking a lot of questions, and that I was supposed to be moderating. That was their impression, and I said to them that this is more like a discussion, so that the two candidates can have discussion without me having an input in there. So that was the clarification I made.
No, I think it's perfect. No, I'm happy to take questions from Julian in the same way that he's happy to take questions from me, I'm sure. I do have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think is what is your policy on the independence of Lot's wife, and how we can maybe ensure their independence in the future?
Yes, just like we'll get back, we'll definitely answer that. We'll give Julian the opportunity to answer that question. But as is traditional with this show, it is 15:30. It's called the 15 o'clock show, so I'll use 24-hour time. But it's 3:30 p.m. So we're gonna have and since we finished the topic
do you mind if I quickly answer that question so it doesn't look like I've had 5 minutes to prepare an answer?
Fine. Okay,
no worries.
Answer.
Yeah, I'm glad Harry asked the question. Yes, I absolutely believe in the independence of Lot's wife. I believe Lot's wife should be able to report critically on the issues which are taking place in the MSA. I think it is very much in the role of Lot's wife to be critically reporting. Now, as everybody knows from the dramas of last year and now this year, Lot's wife has a policy. The MSA has a constitutional provision which says that any statements which are potentially defamatory, the executive has an obligation to rule out. What you'll see right across the country, and I was quite surprised to hear this because I came into the MSA going, like, it's outrageous what took place last year with the vetting of Lot's wife. What you'll find across the country, called up several friends, a friend of mine who's was an independent president out at ANU, called her up and asked, what's the policy you guys have out there in terms of, do you vet the paper, do you do anything at all in terms of the paper? And she's like, yeah, look, we see the whole paper, we don't cut out virtually anything at all, particularly stuff about us. We're always afraid to cut out because we don't want to be seen to be editing the paper simply for our own political purposes, all those sorts of things.
In terms of past editing the paper in that way, is Go taking responsibility for that kind of vetting and taking things out?
In terms of the past, in terms of 2007, I was not involved in that. It was the people, Julian Matt Locari, Zoe Edwards, so a mixture of Go and Universal who were making those decisions. In terms of this year, the policy that we've taken forward, and the policy I'll be taking forward next year, is such that Lot's wife will send any articles which may be deemed potentially defamatory, but they send them through to the executive. Where we go from that is that then we look at those articles, probably usually send them on to the lawyer to make a decision over whether they can be included or not. But what I mean by whether they can be included or not, I'm talking about individual lines. Particularly when you're talking about an article like the $26,000 question, which recently came out. There is one line in that which I think needs to change. One line where they float a theory about bullying and harassment, which I think is blatantly defamatory. You can't float theories like that and simply besmirch the name of people. Now, regardless of whether someone is going to launch legal action or not, by virtue of the fact that they've got the finances to do it, regardless, I think all people should have the same sorts of rights in order to not have their names be defamed. At the same time, Lot's wife's editorial independence needs to be guaranteed. So, the system that you set up is that Lot's wife sends through any article which they think might be a problem to the executive. They send that through to the executive sends it on to the lawyer, it says if there's anything in particular which needs to be changed. I emphasise changed, not ruling out entire articles. I don't think entire articles should be ruled out unless they're completely and utterly flagrantly wrong. There's nothing wrong with the $26,000 question in terms of potentially defamatory. I think it's a lot wrong in terms of its bias, but that's not for the executive to decide. It's not for the executive to decide whether you're allowed to print biased articles or not. That's a question for Lot's wife editors. The question for executive is purely about limiting the legal liability of the organisation. Potentially defamatory is the issue. That's the only issue that can come up. There's all sorts of issues I have with that article, but that's not appropriate for me as an executive member to have any sort of say over whether or not they can publish on that basis. It's only on the basis of potentially defamatory statements. There is one line which needs to change in that. The policy that we go forward with from here is that if they violate the policy, if they don't send through something which clearly needed to be checked over with the law, then you resort to every article being checked over by the executive before publication, which I think is an incredibly unfortunate situation. It's something which takes place in every campus across the country. I don't think anyone can actually find a campus where they don't vet the entirety of the paper. And if so, I'd love to know what sort of policy they're operating under, because I'd rather move to that. But that's the situation where I said you start off in a position of trust, you extend the maximum possible trust to the editors as possible, because they're the ones who are reading all the articles, they're the ones who care most about the paper. That's the position of go.
Okay. Universal also has a position on this one, and after the break, we'll get back to the universal policy on